Welcome to Sibya I.T with Kuya GT. This is the 22nd. Today is the 22nd of October 2020, and we are now on our 26th episode. Episode 26 sa Sibya I.T with Kuya GT. Salamat sa pag-iguban ka na ako ug sorry kayo kay absenta sa ubang mga schedules na to. Right, so I hope Rini Budinha will start with our tech headlines. Sa atong technology headlines. Okay. Then good. Okay. Oy, klaro ba? Lugay man, di man mabasa. Ito. Hindi kayo kuan kayo. Dali ra kayo. 5 seconds po gud akong gikuha na. So I think I'll make it at least 10 seconds para di sad mo mabitin pagtan-aw na akong gibuhat. It took me 3 hours to make this kay we're talking about my lower thirds. I created this from scratch. Pwede mo sa tag mangupya sa uban, but I created this from scratch so that I would learn the technology. Grabe sa day. It took me many weeks of studying overall how to use Adobe After Effects, and then just to create this about 3 hours. Because I had to learn a lot of techniques like the anchor, sa pag-anchor, sa pagbuhat og null nga mga objects, mga side skills nga that you need in order to make this one. So I hope klaro na siya, di ba? Okay, di kayo maklaro, no? That's one of the technology. One of these days I will teach you how to do this. Pero you need to be familiar with Adobe After Effects first, and that takes time getting to know After Effects. Mga keyframes, dagan sa anchor, wala yan. Okay, so that's one of the hopefully makita na sa technology bang. Saka ako pa na siyang i-reduce ang file size kay dako or kayong file size, and I will increase the duration. Increase the duration niya. Okay, GT bands anchor. So we'll be making one for all of the anchors later on. As I said, I find challenge in things nga, all right. And okay. So technology. Welcome to our technology news. Okay, this is technology news. Ang Tesla stock sa Tesla, of course, technology and Tesla because they're an electric car. Tesla stock climbs after hours. That means to say after the stock market after hours. That means after trading hours. Tesla stock climbs after hours after the company posts record profit and says it will sell 500,000 cars this year. Grabe ang Tesla. Grabe pangwarta ng Tesla. And I hope that somebody else can do it now. Na madupigan nila ang Tesla, because before we go to the next headline, Tesla is an electric car. It is easy to make an electric car because the only moving parts are the transmission. Diba? Transmission linkages. Unlike Toyota or unlike the ICE or internal combustion engines, magbuhat pa kag magbuhat pa kag solid block kanang cylinders kanang engine gid ba, the cylinder blocks. and that are carved from, created out of solid aluminum or solid alloy, and it's very expensive to make those engines. Foundry ko na, and to make them aligned perfectly, because we're talking about combustion, talking about the piston, and then there'll be no leakage there, and the heat, etc. So theoretically, it is more difficult. 99%, oh, 99%, 1000% more difficult to make an internal combustion engine than an electric car, because of the foundry aspects of it, creating that engine block. Okay, cylinder block, the engine block. So, karon nagpahimo sa rin Tesla, kawa sila competition kayo. So it's like, the new LED watches before. So the first time came out the Timex, nga ganahan kay ta, mahal kay to. Karon wala, ang LED watch na 30 pesos. Manalili. And the US government sues Google. I already mentioned that to you, Kaysan, sues Google for alleged anti-competitive abuses in search engines. Mali kinaging, pero ako po Google, bingon ko, pangita ko muglang engine. Ano? Wa may mubuti mo gamit og engine, search engine. Ang Amazon will allow some employees to work from home. Will allow some employees to work from home until mid-2021. Sam's Club is putting robot janitors in all of its stores during the pandemic. By the way, ako naman itong gi-play diri ang trailer sa Next, no? I hope nag-follow mo sa Next. It's about artificial intelligence. We're now on episode 3. Kuya Juan Koy, because this is a real possibility. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, na ang Next. Sunod. Ang Snapchat na, Snap stocks misaka og 20% on strong user growth. And new Adobe Photoshop tool could help fight fake images. O ang Intel iyang gibaligya ang iyang non-memory chip business to its SK Hynix for $9 billion. Of course, SK is Son Kyung. It's a huge South Korean conglomerate, is Son Kyung Hynix for $9 billion. Of course, ang Son Kyung Hynix dugay na sila into the memory business. Of course, Son Kyung industrial business na siya. It's a conglomerate, it's a chaebol. It's a Korean chaebol. And they entered into the electronics industry, I think 30 years ago. 30 or 25 years ago. Now, karon ang Intel iyang mga negative and sa negative and memory chip business to SK Hynix for $9 billion kada ko na. So, ang Intel will just focus on the CPU, not on the memory chips anymore. Okay. Ang NASA o ang Nokia are putting up a 4G network on the moon. Ayay. So, mabutangan lang 4G network itos buwan. Unya, from the moon, makapasa nag signal back to Earth. Kuyawan at sorry. And Alibaba is spending more than $3 billion para ma-dominate nila ang online groceries in China. Okay, naman sila kwarta. Manay nakindot ang kwarta lagi kay makakuanta na. The battle for online shoppers begins as Indians spend billions ahead of Diwali. Kining Diwali, mura ni sila og Christmas sa India. Christmas sa India. Ang Instagram now is trying to crack down on hidden advertising. By the way, ha, before you forget, no, before I forget, na mga online scams karon kana bitang mga order kanya dili ma-deliver. Kunya, wa ka mo tan-og maayo walay contact address ng seller. So, usas mga kauban na to, hapit mahilad na. So, scam na siya sa Facebook ug sa Instagram. Usahay, mas may nangari ka sa Lazada, Shopee, Zalora, kay these are the companies nga may mo protect nimo against scams. Like, dili, of course, na mga fake mga products, pero at least makareklamo ka ba? Now you can hum to search Google for songs you can't remember but can't forget. Now, gisuwayan ni sa akong kuan nephew. Ipaham ko niya kanta, kaduha gyud wala ma-recognize ang giham ng mga kanta. Wala ma-recognize. But the song which I have is a published song in the US. Siya pa ko. Di siya ka-search ko. Pa siguro siya in database. Ang ransomware is the latest threat to the 2020 elections. Grabe. Grabe ng mga kuanan na. Alright, sige. And by the way, I hope na mo sa atong chat group. Asa na ning atong So if you can post your comments on Facebook and on YouTube, hopefully makuanta na to makaigsunan. Okay, right. Ano yung mga messages niya? Good afternoon, gikan ni Yamato, o gikan ni Dory. Good afternoon, watching from Cordoba. Okay, niya. Okay. JT Bex. Okay, nakatay ko din na. Lower thirds. Enak dibuhat. But I really wanted to do it on my own from scratch. So, of course, anak ko ng tutorials. Dahil yun ang ikaw lagi mo. That's what I have been saying all along. Remember, mathematics, science, your children, ako na din sila. Let them use YouTube. Para na ako, YouTube, it has become all things. It has become all things. Pero ang iyang gamit gyud nga makuha na to makaingon gyud ka nga useful gyud is learning new things, and you don't need a teacher, you don't need a textbook anymore, and there are various sources, various tutors or various teachers. So, in terms of technology, in terms of education, free man gud ni ang YouTube. And I have been advocating for this for so many years now. The reason why I believe YouTube is very powerful, the reason why I can appreciate that is because I used to be a college instructor. I used to be a college instructor. And when I was a college instructor, I would rely, of course, on the textbooks, what I have read all around based on the library. Kaya pa mata internet sa una. So magsalig na ko sa library and all the books about the same topic. But then you have to go to the library, you borrow, and you return. Even if you're an instructor, a professor, nagyan po yung limit sa pila ka days. And then it's not visual. So if you're following equations on a textbook, lisura magkaigsunan what happened from step 1 to step 2 to step 3. But now on YouTube, you're just sitting there, you watch the equations being solved in front of you. So for me, you don't need teachers anymore. Now, I have told you before, when I was a student, I didn't need teachers. Practically, I didn't need teachers. You know why? Because I studied in advance. In advance. So I studied, let's say, 1 chapter ahead, 2 chapters ahead. If you studied 2 chapters ahead, wala ka. Ikaw na number 1 sa iyong klase. Correct. That is true. It's true. Ikaw na number 1 sa inyong klase. If you are studying 2 chapters ahead. Okay, nag-teach sa mister, okay, ba naman ka? So, practically, in terms of, let's say, individual interaction with a teacher, I didn't need the teacher anymore. Because, let's say we're talking about, what are we talking about? Political science? The book is there. Or talking about religious education? The books are there. Or talking about Rizal? The books are there. Remember, the teacher is not the author of the book. If I read from the book, I read directly from the author. So, pareha namin sa professor. Now, science, engineering. Kanaron. Science, engineering, mathematics, technology. When we're talking about college, there's a syllabus. In other words, standard gina siya. Standard ang topics. So, the teacher is just, ang teacher actually is just parroting what he read from the textbook. So I said, if he can read from the textbook, I can read from the textbook. But if I can read 2 chapters ahead, and I understand these 2 chapters, when it comes to the classroom, then the professor is not teaching me anymore. I am the one waiting for the professor to make a mistake. To make a mistake. Muna importante niya. Maghuwatan lang kung masayop sila. So I don't need. So the role of the teacher for me now is giving the examinations and grading me. That's all. And I sort of made it as a personal challenge to learn ahead so that when the teacher discusses it, I already knew the topics. Now, it was difficult for me because I had to make an extra effort. Ako may kaisan, I'm very lazy. I tell you this. I'm very lazy, but I study so hard so that I can be lazy. Is that the paradox? For example, tapulan ko, so I want to look for shortcuts parang sa'yo. So when there's a problem, let's say in mathematics, I study in advance and I find a shortcut. So when the exam comes, I look for the shortcut. Now, there are, may nga sa una din shortcut? Yes, because there are other ways of solving a problem. I remember this, and when I was still college, 30 years from now, I still remember this. There was a problem on, I think, a problem on that, and I used a technique called Lagrange multipliers, which is advanced engineering mathematics. Usually, Lagrange is not even studied at the university sa among curriculum because there's no need for it. It was sort of Lagrange multipliers are, let's say, graduate school level, master level. But I use it to solve a problem very easily because with Lagrange multipliers, you just come out with a matrix anyway. But in order to come up with a shortcut, I have to study hard. So it's paradox. So when I say use the YouTube technology to help yourself, to help your students, to help the teachers, to help the... I'm not really kidding. You can use YouTube as your professor. And that is why, corollary to that, makaingon ka nga, kung high school lang, grade 11, grade 12, naton mas public school eh. Kay Zoom raman taron. Diba? Zoom raman ta sa public school. Kung nag-Zoom na ta sa public school, Zoom na sa private school, pareha ra. Mas gamay paggastos public school kay libre. Na-equalize naman. Kay di naman kinahanglan ang 100 hectare nga campus. Di na kinahanglan ang building nga nindot kayo nga air condition. So na-equalize natin, we will be used to it. From now on. Nagagamit naman tag Zoom, mag-meeting lang tag Zoom. Diba? Muna'y advantage na karon in terms of, let's say, cost kay di na kailangan mo enroll pa sa very expensive universities. I don't know. Is kinahanglan sa gihapon ka degree gikan sa UP Ateneo San Carlos. But in terms of knowledge, YouTube's there. As I said, tanong-tanaw ko tensor calculus. I don't need it anymore. I'm so old. What do you need tensor calculus for? But I watch it because I marvel at the human mind. Makayon ko, grabe ng human mind. The human ba? Mind. Now, we are able to think of these things. We were able to think of these things 200 years ago, 150 years ago. And they're being used now. Kada lang Fourier transforms. Fourier series, Fourier transforms. Especially the fast Fourier transforms. It is used in artificial intelligence. I think we just discussed the Fourier transforms 1 or 2 weeks in college, but we don't even use it that much. Pero makaingon ko ba nga, now, I will not be surprised if there are many cum laudes, magna cum laude, summa cum laude graduating. If you use technology to your advantage. Now, again, how do you use YouTube technology? You use it first to familiarize yourself with the topic. Always try to do this. Get an overview. You view the forest, not the leaves. So, if there's a new software you want to know, new technology you want to know, tanong-tanaw lang yun ka. I mean, random. Kini, kana. You try to get an overall idea of how this thing works. Like how to make algorithm, like the one I made last night. Karon pa na ako makompile actually today, a few minutes ago. Ano? You see? That lower thirds. O, mura na kung CNN, ano? Ha? Kung sa may diferensya sa CNN o si JT Benz, paggawas ang lower thirds niya, nabali. Sana matawag ko eh. Diba? Right nila ako. Diba? So I make these lower thirds here. I made it on my own. Step by step. You don't have to learn everything. Just do enough. Just do enough skills. Just learn enough skills. Just do enough things to be able to do what you want to do. Like in this case, oh na. See? Dagan-dagan pa. Oh. So now, kaya ba ko sa pagpadagan? It takes a long time kay mag-arrange pa, gidak-on. Practically, it took me 3 hours to make that last night. Tapulan ko magkaigsunan, but when it comes to things that are challenging, I'll do it. So, but of course, I have to learn Adobe Premiere, Adobe After Effects. I've been studying After Effects for the last, maybe 3 months, but I didn't study it na again, nag-work ko. I was trying to watch videos of it. So, nakabahan ako, sa mga topics, sa mga techniques. But I haven't actually done it. Now, let's go back to my point here. When you use YouTube for science, technology, engineering, mathematics, any topic, first, you familiarize yourself with the topics and the topics available. Like specific topic, you want to know about the Riemann integral or the Riemann sum. Just say the Riemann sum, di lang integral, the Riemann sum. So, kanang Riemann sum ang kaigsunan, it took me, remember, you have to read that book. Libro sa calculus, the Riemann sum is a boring topic. And it took me a long time to understand it. Kay ano naman ay rectangle, yan ay triangle. Yang triangle pagamyon. So the limit. So there's the Riemann sum, there's the limit. Riemann, named after Riemann, German mathematician. R-I-E-M-A-N-N, Riemann. The Riemann sum. Even the teachers now sa college, they don't actually teach you the Riemann sum. They just go directly to the indefinite integrals. So, ang Riemann sa pagtuon, isura kay na may diagram dito sa textbook na may triangle niya. Ang text mo refer sa triangle, asa man ang figure 2, figure 3. It's very confusing. So, ako tapulan man ko, but I really had to study it in order to understand what is this Riemann sum. So, yung abot sa maestro, masayop nga ni karon sir, bantay lagi ka. Ako rin pati. Anyway, so now, if you want to study the topic of Riemann sum, ingon ka sa YouTube, search ka. May search na ba YouTube diri? Search ka YouTube, Riemann sum. Ano Riemann sum. Astan, daghan na topic on the Riemann sum. I will show this. I will show this to you. Chrome. YouTube. Yes. Okay. Ini ako nang transition. Okay. On my back. The Riemann sum. So, mo kay bang sa Riemann sum. First time mo ko ang Riemann sum. Ano Riemann sum? Okay, Riemann sum. Left points, end points, Riemann sum. So, there is the Riemann sum. Daghan ka nag-topic on the Riemann sum. Daghan ka nag-lectures the Riemann sum. Pero I tell you, daghan ka topic. You look at those topics, the Riemann sum. But I tell you, let's say we go to organic theater. What is just an example of how to use the technology.
How can we calculate the area under the curve from, let's say, 0 to a? So how can we determine the area of the shade region? Now, one simple way in which we could do so is by using rectangles.
Example
So let's
how
use
a
rectangles.
very esoteric topic which is not common.
And this is the reason we can use our sum. represent the right endpoints for an increasing function. So if we're going to use 4 rectangles, n is equal to 4.
So, kini siya,
So we're gonna
nag-discuss
break
na siya
this up
sa
into 4
topic on the Riemann sum.
subintervals.
Okay?
Now, using the left
Now,
endpoints, the first
tell me,
rectangle
kana nga
is going to be at
discussion,
0.
can you
So it
follow
doesn't have
that
any
on a
height.
textbook?
The second rectangle,
Can you
when x is 2, is going to touch the
understand
curve.
this kung nagbasa ka sa
And then
textbook?
the next one, when x is
So
4,
magtanong ka kung sa may
it's going to
Greek
touch the curve.
diagram
It
unsa
looks
man.
like
Oh,
that.
tanawa, nagbuhat siya
And then when
rectangle.
x is 6, that will help us to do so.
Oh,
So basically,
may
we have
height
to
sa
find the
rectangle.
sum to delta x,
Area,
which we could see that delta
x, oh,
is 2, times the height.
times the
height is
height.
basically
So
the y
actually,
values, or the function values,
under the
at some
curve,
particular sample point.
gipangita niya ng area sa rectangle.
The sigma
Unya
notation
na po
tells us that
triangle na
we
hibilin,
need to find a
i-add mo
sum
duha mo na area
starting
under the
from 1
curve.
to n.
Remember sa ano
where n
pagpangitang
is
area under the curve?
So basically, we have to find the sum
Wa pa'y
of the
calculus
area
sa
of
una.
each
And
rectangle.
this is the beginning actually of
So
calculus.
delta x
Area
represents
under
the
the curve.
width
So
of the
pakibas area under
rectangle,
the curve. You know the
and f
area
of x
of
represents the
a
height
circle.
of the rectangle.
You know
So
the
width times
area
height will
of
give us the
a
area.
triangle. You know the area of a
Delta x
rectangle.
is equal to
Square.
b
Square is
minus
just a
a
special
divided by
rectangle.
n.
But
Now, a is basically the first
how
point
would
that we
you
see
know the area
on the
under
left
a
side.
curve?
So a is
If
0.
the curve is y equals x
b
cubed, y
represents
equals
the
x
last
squared.
point. So b is 8.
Diba?
So we want to find the area
So
from
this is
0
the
to 8.
Riemann sum.
That is
And
x is 6.
bahala di mo kasabot,
height
pero look at
sub
that.
2.
It's so difficult to follow on a
That's 16.
textbook.
And f of
Sa
6
amo
is
na
6 squared, which
naglibog
is
iba ni.
36. Don't
Oh,
forget the function.
nagidrawing sa mga crazy dito rin na.
Hi, I'm Dr. Amy Killen. I have my own medical practice, and I've been using Doodly now for a few weeks.
Function is
So,
y equals x squared. So f of x
The
is
area
x
under
squared.
the curve y equals x squared. So
Now,
let's say
4
5,
plus
32,
16 is
72. That's the
20
area of the
plus
rectangle.
36 is 56.
But then if it's x,
And
y,
2
and z,
times
sa ano
56
nimo?
is 112.
He's just calculating if given the numbers of any
And so
curve.
we're going from
For that matter.
touches the curve
Oh.
and then go to
So
the
na
left.
curve, yeah, na
So at 4,
oh.
you start where
So
4
ang
touches the
curve ko
curve
no,
and then go to the left.
pwede
So
nagbukas
you can see that
rectangle and
this
then
is going to be an
it can be
over
composed of a
approximation.
rectangle and triangle.
So that's 2, 4, the area that we get using the right endpoints when n is 4.
So this is how to
we just
explain
gotta
a
evaluate
Riemann
the
sum, and
definite
it's difficult to
f
do
of
that
x
kung
squared, f of
nagfollow ka
x
sa
is x
textbook.
squared. It's going to be 0 to 8.
But
X
na
value.
may
This is
YouTube,
x sub 2.
you will
So
just
x sub
learn these
is
things
61.
in YouTube.
So we're not going to use the first point on the left.
So this is now the Riemann sum.
So we need to use towards 170.67. It went from 240 to 204.
Pwede ba rin 1080?
And notice the average. Comparing n equals 4 and n approximate
See?
the area under the curve using the left endpoints
Now,
and the right endpoints.
There are other topics sa Riemann sum. If you don't understand how that was explained, now, part 2 niya. Calculating a
Okay, in this
definite
video,
integral using Riemann sums.
I want to calculate a definite integral using Riemann sums.
Kaniya,
So,
on kaniya, wa pa
what
man
I
yung
want to
mga
do is I want to calculate the
express ako,
value of this
papel pa
definite
niya gagamit
interval
yun.
from 1 to 3 of x squared minus x long way using the definition on sums.
So, here, there's the Riemann sum.
So
the limit
that's what we
of
have on the
etc.,
right-hand
etc.,
side.
etc.
Remember to calculate the value of
Fxi
delta x. We'll let that
delta x
equal
limit from 1
b
to n
minus
as
a
n
over
approaches
n, so the
infinity.
length of the interval over n, natural numbers
So
from 1
these
to
are
n.
using the Riemann
Delta
sums.
x
You
is,
find
we
the
just
area under the curve or using the integral.
Okay,
Di
so
na siya ma-follow nimo if
1
you are
plus
using
in
a textbook.
terms of
Very difficult.
the definition using Riemann
Again,
sums.
tapulan man go.
I think I'm going to stop this video here.
Riemann
Tapulan man
sum
go.
example using
I have to
left-handed,
understand
right-handed,
it
and
so that I
trapezoidal
will really
approximation.
learn.
All right. So it says let f of x equal x cubed from 0 to 3. Use a Riemann sum and a trapezoidal sum.
Riemann sum.
Trapezoidal
So,
approximation.
trapezoid of triangle. Okay. Anyway.
That means there's 1.
So what do you
and
do
there's
is
2.
this. Using YouTube,
There's 3 rectangles.
what do you do is you try to watch, and this is how you tell your children. You watch many different YouTubes on the particular topic, Riemann sum. And then, once you have those topics on Riemann sum, very different topics, try to understand, post review. makasabot na ka na. And then the next step is this. You must actually solve a problem on Riemann sums. Solve a problem. Because pag sila kag tanaw, di ka solve, you will not really feel, you will not understand it. Kinahanglan juga nga mo solve ka. Diba? Kinahanglan mo solve ka. So, that's the Riemann sum there. So, you should solve these problems. Actual problem. So, to summarize, on how to study now, you search the topic on YouTube, and then on YouTube, you watch as many videos on YouTube as possible on that particular topic. Just watch it. Different people, different teachers, different YouTubers, different bloggers with different ideas on explaining it. It's the same topic. Okay, like the trapezoid. That's the rectangle and the triangle. So, once you have viewed these topics and you have an idea, general idea of what it is, then you solve a particular problem on Riemann sum in this case. Or if you want quadratic formula, then you solve. You solve by yourself. And that's how you're going to learn. You don't need a teacher. Yung teacher, ugma, atong discussion topic is Thevenin's theorem. Mayroon nila, okay. Operational amplifiers. Okay. I was teaching operational amplifiers before. Muna akong master sa calculation sa una. Operational amplifiers. Okay, what is an operational amplifier? Mas Khan Academy niyo. What is an operational amplifier? Okay, so it's just a behavior mo film mo diha. All about electronics. So, engineering. Operational amplifier. Oh, this is an op-amp. And then
Hey friends, welcome to the YouTube channel all about electronics. So in this video, we are going to talk about the basics of the operational amplifier. And in the upcoming videos, we will talk more about this operational amplifier. And we will see later it is possible
so this is the
operations. And that is why this amplifier is known as. So now in the output, this amplifier is known as the operational amplifier. So now if you see the circuit symbol of operational amplifier, it can be represented by this symbol. So it consists of different mathematical operations, and that is why this amplifier is known as the operational amplifier. So now if you see the circuit symbol of operational amplifier, it can be represented by this symbol. So it consists known as the inverting input terminal.
So discuss kani
Input signal, like 1 volt of signal to the input side at that time. Open loop gain the square wave to the input of this op-amp, and at the output we are getting this common mode rejection slew rate. And in this ideal op-amp, whenever the input is equal to 0, then at that time the output is also 0. And this ideal op-amp has a infinite common mode rejection ratio. But if you see any
Welcome to Lecture Online. Okay. We're now starting a new chapter in electrical engineering on operation. Then the two inputs, the inverter, here's the amplifier. We're going to talk about the two basic.
This is introducing the op-amp.
So therefore we can also consider them.
And we have the different op-amp
circuits. To summarize, all we need to do for an operational amplifier is to realize that the potential difference between.
Kini mining lecture niya.
Welcome to Electron Line. Now let's talk about the operational amplifier as a summing amplifier. It turns out we can use an operational amplifier to sum up different input voltages. In this example, we have three of them. And what we're going to do here is express the output voltage in terms of the input voltages. Also notice that this will be in an inverting operational mode because we have the input voltages connected to the inverting terminal of the operational amplifier. What we're going to do is here is add up all plus I4 voltage between point A and 0. Actually,
so
this direction, which means we're going to say VO minus V sub A.
Created by Filipino.
Notice the negative.
Sa manufacturing wala ta.
We can write the equation. Here again, you can see that the output voltage will be the negative of the sum of these voltages, assuming that these voltages.
So, but the
plus
real thing
R4 over R3 is equal to, so when I move this to the left side, or I actually flip the equation around and factor out of V sub B, that must be equal to R sub 4 over R sub 3 times V2.
It's probably an author of a book.
And finally, what I can do is I can solve for VB by A. And we can say that I1 entering the node equals I2 leaving the node. And I2 can be calculated by taking the voltage difference between these two, which is V1 minus V at A, divided by the resistance, let's call this R1. And that is equal to the difference in the voltage between VO and V1.
Then you need to change the numbers.
I'm going to put a circle over R sub 1 V1. Now notice we have an R sub F over R sub 1 here, and we have an R sub F over R sub 1 here. Now, if I set R sub 1 over R sub F equal to R sub 3 over R sub 4. Now that's a special condition. Why do I do that? Well, if I do that, if I set those two fractions equal to each other, then
Grammarly does more than catch errors. With Grammarly, you can find really good.
While analyzing the circuit, sometimes situation arises when the resistors are neither in series and nor in parallel, and in these situations, delta to Y conversion and Y to delta conversion have a different form. If I lift this particular node, we know the values of RA, RB, and RC. So R13Y, and it is equal to R1 plus R2.
There are examples there. Delta to Y conversion.
So we have RC in parallel with RA plus RB, and we know they should be equal, so we can say that R2 plus R3 RC minus,
delta Y conversion. And then next
so
is
let us say
you put the numbers of the resistors.
minus RBRC. Was clear to you? The important thing is these three results. Even if you don't know how to prove them, there will be no problem in the gate examination, but in your semester examinations, they may ask you the proof. Therefore, it was important to discuss the proof, but the most important thing is the result. In the next lecture, we will perform the conversion of Y to delta. Now I will end this lecture here. See you in the next one.
And to study Premiere, to study Adobe After Effects. There. Tas-tasan sa nato gamay, siguro additional 3 seconds. Alright, so balik na ta sa atong main window.
Good day, guys. This is your Sir A. I'd like to share with you my knowledge in solving engineering problems.
Okay, so mana siya. Again, this is using information technology to ease our lives. But very simple. Number one, familiarize yourself with the topic by watching different videos on the topic. Number two, do an actual work, solve an actual problem. Bisag mo solve lang kag 5 ka problems, it will make you a master already. And then later on, ang gimmick na sa professor, the professor will give you the difficult problems. But if you're ready for it, then it cannot be more difficult than what the real topic really is. So amin paglisod-lisod. So napaday lisod ang multiplication. If you know how to multiply, you just use the process of multiplication. Masipyat na lang ka na sa imong letter y o letter x. Like, for example, gusto ka mo learn o quantum mechanics. Standard model. Kung rin ka. Ito ko ano na.
As a scientist, I love questions. The more, the better. When I play a question game with my kids, extra points are awarded if the questions are tricky, and a special bonus is given if the questions are about something entirely familiar, but with very deep consequences.
What are really
In fact, I almost always lose the
electrons,
competition,
neutrons?
as I
Are
find
these
young
really
children
the
have some of
smallest
the very
particles?
best questions.
No.
Let me give you some idea of the kinds of questions I mean.
Atoms are composed of the
Why
neutrons.
is it that I can wave my hand through the air,
electrons,
but if I try to put
protons,
one hand through the other, I clap?
Protons are composed of something else. Electrons are
How
composed
can
of
it
something
possibly
else.
be that steam, water,
now what is
and
called the
ice
standard
are
model?
actually the same down to what are
Standard
the
model is complete, but it cannot stand.
However, in the last
all.
model,
So that's
we
how
need to
the
recall
standard
some
model
ideas we
explains
might
siya.
have learned from school.
You cannot understand this guy?
If you've ever taken a chemistry class, tiny nucleus with electrons swirling around, we could, in principle at least, construct an entire
See,
cosmos.
it starts with proton,
And that
electron,
is a pretty
neutron,
top and bottom.
and then
Up and down
they're still
quarks.
composed of
And to
the
develop.
quarks. Then you have the
Physicists
up
realized
quark,
that the
down
familiar
quark,
proton and
then you
neutron
have
were made
the
of
polar
smaller
quarks,
objects
the
still.
charm quarks.
We now know of 6 types of quarks.
Oh.
They have kind of silly names, which are up, down, charm, strange, and top and bottom. Up and down quarks are found inside the proton and
you have those
neutron,
quarks. It will
while the
explain
others
to you.
an
Yeah.
attribute is that it is
Unsa
the
man siya?
force
Una
that
na
binds
siya,
the
una na
electrons
siya
to
mga
atomic nuclei and makes
visual
and the strength of
aids.
the puny force of
Wow,
gravity
that is una.
between two particles is a 1 followed by 40 zeros
The
small.
strength of the forces.
This weakness of gravity is why we
So
can't
the weakest form of force in the universe is the gravitational force. Pero ang mahagbong tagikas building, kusuga ba rin yung gravitational force? Pero it's only one of the, so 10 to the, pila man ka 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So 10 to the 14 zeros, negative 15 day. If the strong force has a strong of 1, the strength of 1, strength of 1. The electromagnetic force has a strength of 1 over 100 compared to the strong force. And the wing force has 1 over 100,000 compared to the strong force. And the gravitational force is 1 to the 10 to the minus 15 compared to the strong force. So the weakest force in the universe is actually the gravitational force, not the electromagnetic force. Pero nga naman ta nga, mahog tas building, mabuak mo itong bali mo itong bukog, mamatay man ta. Nga weak man ka ng gravity between you and the earth. Yeah, but the earth is also massive. So it might be the weakest, but also in terms of this question, the biggest force on earth, kay earth is one huge mass. So strength of the force. Unsa man strong force? That's the force holding the nucleus together. Kay nucleus ba plus ba niya proton? Proton versus proton. Pulbo na siya. Anyway, I'm just showing to you on how to use information technology. Like in this case right now. So, ang atong mga teachers, pwede sila magka-create og ilang mga lectures, ilang i-upload, but kung ako yung teacher, mag-create na lang kag playlist on YouTube and share that playlist, the playlist that you created, playlist of videos, share that with your students. Class, this is your assignment, you watch this. Yeah, una may questions. Lisod mo na yung questions. Okay, 5 ka buok on the topic of standard model na po. Oh, the standard model from the Royal Institution.
Beat your own best and go a level higher every time. Keep going.
What is a Higgs boson, you might ask, and that's a very reasonable question. So I'm going to very briefly take you on a quick tour of particle
the standard model so
electrons and what determines complete description of the in a way where you have this sort of structure. So it's not something we're very familiar with. In fact, particles aren't really of all matter. So electrons, quarks, everything. But by interacting with this cosmic energy field, we're made of at least, is this field. And the Higgs really is the proof that this field is out there. And that's why finding it was so important. Because the Higgs mechanism, this Higgs process by which the particles get mass is absolutely...
Tonight we have with us Ed Murphy from UVA. He's an astronomy professor out there. He's also in charge of the night event.
The origin of gold, element number 79 right there. Right next to it is element number 80, mercury on the periodic table. But I also want to talk about some elements that are a little more personally interesting to us. Thin pizza, if you core of a star like our inside the core.
Origins of the elements.
And we can use radio telescopes like this to trace the distribution of the different atoms through our galaxy and through the universe.
Different lectures and videos on
so let's go back to the periodic table of elements for a few minutes. And I should mention that I took this periodic table of elements from the JLab webpage. There's a really nice It's Elemental page where you can click on each of the elements and get information about each of the elements. And so you should visit that webpage after the talk tonight. But there's a couple things I'd like to tell you about the periodic table of elements. And maybe the most amazing thing I can tell you about the periodic table of elements, it's really quite a remarkable thing to be able to say. The periodic table of elements is not just the elements that we know of. It is
Salamat sa pag-igbuhan ka na ko. Kini si Jet Events, October 22, 2020. This is the 26th episode of Sibya I.T with Kuya JT. Thank you and good afternoon.